Alright, welcome everyone. Thank you very much for coming to my talk, and this one is all on habits. I'm going to start off this talk with a really inspiring and amazing story about the British cycling team, who at this time in 2004, they had won a single gold medal in the last 100 years, just one, and they hadn't won the Tour de France at all. They were considered one of the worst set of sportsmen ever, and they were so bad that the top sponsors refused to sponsor them as they believed it would tarnish their name. And so in 2005 they hired Dave Brailsford to improve their quality and get them soaring again, or for the first time. And Dave Brailsford had this mindset that marginal gains, tiny changes, are what make big differences. And so he set out to improve every little aspect of the British cycling team to an absurd extent. He would make sure they would wear thermally insulated clothing that had the ability to electrically heat the cyclist muscles to the perfect temperature for their performance. He figured out what the best massage gel was. He made the outdoor cyclists wear indoor cycling suits. They went ever so slightly faster. He even went so far as to paint the inside of the truck white such that specks of dust could be spotted. All of this seems absurd, but every one of these little gains made the British cycling team now recognised as one of the best cycling teams in history. From 2007 to 2017, over the space of 10 years, the Brits then went to win 178 championships, 66 gold medals, and 5 Tour de France's. It may seem absurd all of what he did, but this is the reason I'm giving this talk on habits. It's because it's not those ginormous leaps and changes that really take you far in life. It's the little 1% improvements. For example, if you got 1% better every day for a year, by the end of a year, you would be 37% better. However, if you got 1% worse every day for a year, you would end up at almost nothing. And this is what's really important about habits. And it's a hallmark, because a lot of us, when we're working on our habits and we're working to change and have improvements in life, we're looking to be here at this point. We're looking to have improved significantly before we should have. And this is one of the hallmarks of habits, is improvement takes time. Your success in the future is a lagging measure of your habits now. Where you're going to be in 5, 10, 15 years is a lagging measure of your habits up to that point. It's not what you do at that moment, it's all that time before. Where you are now is a lagging measure of your habits over the past few months and a couple of years. And that's the key with habits, and you have to always appreciate that they will pay off in the long run, but right now they may not be the most beneficial. With habits, you get what you repeat. The more you control your habits, the more you repeat it, the more behaviours you're controlling the current trajectory in life. Like a stone cutter who will bang and bang and bang on a stone 100,000 times before it breaks, but there is that one last hammer hit where the stone finally broke. If I gave you a coin, you wouldn't say you're rich. If I gave you 10 coins, you wouldn't say you're rich. If I even gave you 1,000, you wouldn't say you're rich. But at some point, I would have given you a coin and you would consider yourself rich. And it's the same with habits. Saving money once won't make you rich. Saving money twice won't make you rich. Going to the gym once won't make you fit. But at some point, all of those behaviours and effort will pay off. Your efforts are never wasted. They are always being stored and eventually they will pay off. So to start off with, I'm going to break down the science of habits. Once you understand the science, what's actually going on, you'll be able to see it working in your life, and when you understand that, you're going to be able to manipulate and control it. With that, you'll have your full power over your habits and over your trajectories in life. So, I'm going to start off with this breakdown. Habits allow your body, your mind, to overcome this bottleneck. You can only consciously focus on one thing at a time. Whether you're thinking about assignment due, whether you're thinking about the cars making noise behind, or whether you're actually doing what you should be and listening to me, you can only focus on one thing at a time. It's a conscious bottleneck. And so habits are a pure brilliance of evolution because they allow us to separate out actions from our conscious mind. For example, imagine you're worrying about your job and the project you've got to get done, and you're walking around your house thinking about how you need to do this assignment and Sam's being really annoying, but he's not helping at all, and then you walk into a dark room and you immediately suddenly change to thinking, oh, it's really dark in here, I need the lights on, where's the light switch is here, let's press the light switch, oh, the lights are on, great, and then go back to your thinking. That would be such a switch and a hurdle, it would be a waste of effort. That's why instead you're thinking about this assignment, you walk into the dark room, lights go on, and you carry on as you do. That's the important part of habits, is they're subconscious. And they're so powerful that 40 to 60% of our behaviours are habitual. So I reiterate, control your habits, you're controlling a significant portion of your life. So what actually goes on? First of all, we have a cue. That initiates our habits. Make that a bit bigger. Second of all, we have a craving. That's our desire. Third, a response. And fourth, in a different colour for a very good reason, we have a reward. I'll give you an example. Let's take the light switch example and the example of your phone going off. You walk into the dark room. That's your cue. Your phone buzzes. They're your cues. Next up, you have the desire. You've walked into a dark room. You want it to be light. Your phone buzzes. You want to know who's messaged you. That's your desire, your craving. Afterwards, you have your response. You switch on the light. You pick up your phone and look at your notification. And then you have your reward. The lights are on. You're enjoying a bright room. You look at your phone. You see what notification someone's messaged you. Someone's liked your post. You've got that reward. The reason I have reward labelled in a different colour is because these three are essential for behaviour starting. If you don't have a cue, if it's impossible to notice, you're never going to notice to start it. If you don't have a craving, you're never going to want to do it. If it's impossible to do, you're never going to be able to do it. They start your behaviour. Your reward allows it to be repeated. It encourages that repetition. You need that reward for a habit because that's what gets it going again. That's what tells your mind this was worth doing. I'll do it again. I want it to become automated. That's what goes on with every single one of your habits. So what I'm going to be telling you now is how to crack each one. When you learn how to master each part of your habits, you're going to be able to master each part of your life, and you wouldn't be able to have full control over what's going on. Because your habits are just a system. No matter what you think is impossible, and I say this all the time because I genuinely believe it so much, but if you think it's impossible for you to go to the gym consistently, or you think it's impossible for you to quit smoking, that's not true. It's perfectly possible, you've just got the wrong systems in place. And this is a focus on those systems. So to start off with, I will do cue. So if you've got a cue, and you want your habit to be initiated better, well, you make it obvious. That's the cue's focus, is making it obvious. It's obvious for it to perform. There are a few different techniques for this. One of the best ones is behaviour. At time. Let me explain this. In the early 2000s, the British were studying how to make people exercise more. They were split into three groups. One were just told, exercise a few times a week. They weren't told any more, they were just let to exercise a few times a week. One were given a motivational video about the benefits of exercise and why they should exercise before they were asked to do exercise each time a week. And the third group were told, we want you to definitively define when you are going to be performing this habit. They were told, we want you to say, I will go to the gym at 7 in the morning the gym. I will do a workout at 9 p.m. in my kitchen. They were given definitive, specific instructions for their exercise. And due to that, they were twice as likely to perform that exercise. And so next time you're wanting to implement a habit, think to yourself, let's say it's, I want to study more. You'll say, I will study at 7 p.m. on Mondays in my room. You implement that habit and you stick to it, and you can have a cue, like a reminder to let you know. And because of that, it's a lot easier to implement. The next technique is called habit stacking. And the idea behind this is habit stacking is you're saying, you've got already a habit. We all wake up in the morning, that's a habit. We all brush our teeth, we should. We might all make a coffee in the morning. You've already got this habit in place. So instead of trying to develop a new habit, take this old one and build on top of it. So let's say you want to be more grateful. You would take your current habit of making coffee and you would say, after I make coffee, which you know is going to happen, you've got your cue, I will say something I'm grateful for. After I sit down for dinner, I will say something I'm grateful for. You're building on top of your habits. For myself, my entire morning routine starts with waking up. Everything I do from then on is just habit stacking. It's inevitable I do it. Once I start doing one, I get momentum. That habit stacking is so powerful because it gives you that cue and it gives you a load of momentum which you get the ball rolling. The third and the most powerful with your cue is controlling your environment. As I said earlier with my examples, your environment, what you see, what you hear, that's what dictates your habits, that's what dictates your cues. So if you make something in your environment obvious, like if you had a bowl of chocolates on your kitchen table, because that cue is there, you're always going to be triggered to reach for a chocolate and have one. If you tuck your vegetables into the back of your fridge behind the beer, you're never going to be reaching for the vegetables, you're always going to be getting the beer. The idea behind controlling your environment is that it controls your cues, which control your habits. Control your environment, control your cues, control your habits, control the trajectories of your life, master your potential. In my belief, environment is the most influential in your life. I cannot recommend enough controlling your environment. I mean, there are hundreds of things I try and do to control my environment. A little one is, when I was at home over the summer, I would leave books and articles I wanted to read on my bed. It's not saying I have to read it, but if I lay down on my bed, instead of going on my laptop and watching something, I'd be a lot more likely to read something, because it was there instead of tucked away in my cupboard. Control your environment and you will control your life. Up next is craving. This is about your desire, and I've got a really good story to illustrate this. In the early 1900s, there was a bit of a nutter who was Mr. Polgar, a Polish man. And he had a theory that no one was innately talented or good. He deeply believed that you could train any talent or skill. And he believed it so much that he was sending the weirdest letters. I said he's a nutter. He sent letters to a local school teacher saying, basically, excuse me, will you have children with me so I can test out my theory, and I want to train some children to be a master in a field to see if talent is natural or not. And she, for some reason, did agree to it. So, I mean, that is absurd. But they had 3 daughters, and they chose chess to be the assessment of greatness. It's a hard cognitive skill, it shouldn't be too genetic. And so they wanted to see how far they could make their children go in chess. And so they filled their house with obsessions over chess. They had every book on chess. They had posters of famous chess players. There were chessboards laying around the room. Everything was obsessed with chess. And it did work beyond belief. The first child, the oldest, at 4.5 years old, was beating adults. The middle child, by the time she was 15, was... Sorry. By the time she was 14, she was a world champion, and she was a grandmaster a few years later. The youngest was the most incredible. By the time she was 5, she was beating her obsessed father at chess. By the time she was 12, she was the youngest ever listed in the top 100 players. And by the time she was 15 years and 4 months, she was the youngest grandmaster of any time. And she went on to be the best women's chess player for the next 27 years. And the reason I'm telling you this story is because it critically emphasises the impact social lives have on our desire to have a behaviour. If you grow up in a family where smoking is extremely frowned upon, you're never going to smoke. If you grow up in a family where chess is obsessed, you're going to become one of the best chess players in the world. We're social creatures, it's ingrained into us and it should be. And so when you're looking to form a habit, look to form a social group around you. If you're someone who's used to spending people who enjoy sitting playing computer games all day and all of a sudden you decide you want to go to the gym, they're not going to be the kind of people who are really going to push you in the direction and reward you for what you're doing. This isn't about leaving your current social groups, it's about adapting and finding new ways to find social groups that do encourage your behaviours. And that is one of the best ways to improve your desire for a behaviour. Apologies, I forgot to write the craving. As with cue, you're looking to make it obvious. With a craving, you're looking to make it attractive. You want to know that your behaviour is rewarded. There are many ways of doing that, but one of the best is through that social aspect. Up next, response. This is about doing your actual behaviour. If I asked you right now, I want you to run a marathon, none of you would do it. If I asked you to walk to the door, you'd all be able to do it. The principle behind a response in making it a strong habit, you want to make your response easy. A good story of this is, over time, as humans evolved culturally and across the world, humans developed and migrated 2 to 3 times faster from Asia to Europe band than we did across the Americas, which were up and down. And the reason for this is the climates are very similar on that Europe to Asia band, because it's the same longitude or latitude, I forget which. Whereas the Americas, it's completely different climates. It's the same crops that would grow in Asia would grow in Europe, but they're completely different crops in North America, South America. And because it was so much easier to migrate east to west, they migrated 2 to 3 times faster. And this isn't about humans being intrinsically lazy. This is about understanding that as humans, we want to preserve and conserve our energy. It's precious to us. And so we will always try and do what's of least effort. And what making a behaviour easy is doing is it's targeting that need for it to be least effort. This isn't saying you can't do extraordinary feats that require enormous amounts of energy like an Iron Man. No, there are days you can do superhuman feats, but there are also days where you can't even be bothered to get out of bed. And so the easier you can make a response, the more likely you are to do it consistently. And that is what is key, is it needs to be done consistently. And so with your responses, the best advice I can give you, if you are making your habits, to start off with, make this first action less than 2 minutes. That's not about staying at 2 minutes. So for example, if your goal is to run a marathon, which means you're going to need the habit of running every day. Don't set your goal as I want to run 30 minutes every day. Don't even set it, I want to run for 5 minutes. Make it, I want to go downstairs and put my shoes on every day. You put your shoes on, and then you go downstairs. That's it. And there is an absurd story of a man who wanted to go to the gym more often, and he said to himself, for the next 3 weeks, I am literally going to drive to the gym, walk in, walk out, drive back. But it did that so consistently. After 3 weeks, he was like, might as well get on with the rest of the gym process. The fact about starting it with easy at 2 minutes isn't that you're going to stay there with just tying your shoelaces. Isn't that you're going to finish writing one sentence and call it a day. You're making it easy such that you keep up that behaviour and you're able to grow from there. You're able to go from tying your shoelaces to doing a full-blown habit. Making it easy makes your habits actually be performed. And when they're performed, and you actually do that habit, it leads us on to the next behaviour, which is making it rewarding. So for a behaviour to be rewarding, you want it to be satisfying. Simple as that. You want your behaviour to be satisfying such that you repeat it. These three mastered means you'll do a behaviour. The last one is about repeating it. A good example is chewing gum was invented in the 18th century, but it wasn't widely used at all until 1891, when it was combined with flavourings and additives that made it satisfying to consume. And so when you're controlling that satisfaction, you're controlling the full habit loop, and that will mean next time you get the cue, it is attractive, and you're able to perform your whole habit. The best way to master reward is making it your reward instant. So for example, you might have the goal of becoming a millionaire. You're not going to accomplish that in the next week with a good set of habits. You could, but it's unlikely. So those kind of rewards, say you do eventually become a millionaire, you get a massive amount of reward. But that kind of reward doesn't trigger yourself for your next goal, say being a billionaire. Your rewards are very instantaneous. And the reason is, for this is, evolutionarily, it's no priority for us to know whether we were going to find camp in 6 years' time. We need to know whether the tiger is going to catch us right now, and the reward of our success would be pretty instant. We either get eaten or we don't. And that's the big part of our nature, is that we need our rewards to be instantaneous. We don't want to be waiting for a delayed amount of time. So when you're looking to reward yourself for a habit, make it instantaneous. As well, you can do this with things like, say you went to the gym and you wanted to reward yourself slightly. You could go for it. Say you went to the gym consistently every day for a week. You could reward yourself with going to a spa or having a massage. But importantly, you wouldn't reward yourself with having an ice cream, because it's a very conflicting reward, because you're normally going to the gym to be healthier. Then you can't have an ice cream because that is very conflicting. Ways that are less about sort of expenses to reward yourself is you can use habit trackers. So that would be like a calendar, and every day you achieve it, you tick it off, and every day it's a little satisfying. Some people put paper clips into a jar, and that's a little bit satisfying. The idea of rewarding is you are making it just a little bit more satisfying, so that next time you do want to do it. And eventually, after you say you achieve your long-term 2-year goal of, I don't know, being able to lift 200 kilograms, eventually that reward will be part of a payoff. The problem is it's going to be a very delayed reward, and it's hard to wait for that long for your reward. That is the framework. There is so much more details to it, but that framework will last you forever in life. You will always be able to see how your habits are developing, those around you, your children's habit, and with this, you can just control your habits entirely. This is how to build good habits. And very briefly, going to give you the opposite. If you want to break a bad habit, instead of it being obvious, make it invisible. If you can't see a habit, you're never going to perform it. If you've got an issue with eating chocolate in your room, move your box of chocolates out of your room, hide them in a cupboard, lock them in a cupboard. That just gets them out of your visual way. If you want to make it undesirable, you make it unattractive. That means you don't want to do it. Like I said with smoking, if your whole family frowns upon smoking, it's likely to make you not want it. Look for that social group where your current behaviour you're trying to break isn't supported by the social group. It's easy, instead make it difficult. Another benefit of linking these two together with your environment is if you put, say, your box of chocolates somewhere hidden, then you're not only have you got to, you're not going to see it, but even if you think about it, you've got to go get the box of chocolates. A good example is, a great way if you want to watch less TV is, put the TV remote in a different room if that doesn't work. Take the batteries out and put them in a different room. If that doesn't work, unplug your TV and even put your TV in a different room. If you had friends over and you really wanted to watch a movie, you'd be able to go get your TV and plug it in. It'd be worth it. But if you're bored one Thursday night, you're never going to be bothered to actually undergo all those processes to actually perform your habit of binge watching TV. And lastly, making it unsatisfying. That's going to mean you're not going to want to repeat a behaviour. It's as simple as that. You're just reverse engineering all of these, and you're taking control over the habits you build and habits you break. I'm going to give you a bonus concept about identity. I'll use a black pen for this. You can think of change in 3 different levels. A lot of us focus on the outside level. And these are focused on outcomes. I want to be a successful millionaire. I want to lose weight. I want to eat healthier. I want to get first. They are on your outcomes and your goals. These ones, this level inside, is a behaviour. Lecturers make it look a lot easier to write than it actually is. This is focused on what you're actually doing. So if you want to become a millionaire, you're making sure you save money every day. If you want to get first, you're making sure you study every day. That's what this behaviour is focused on. The innermost level, and this is the really important sort of golden level to master, that's your identity. The reason this is so powerful is because instead of saying, I want to be a millionaire, instead of saying, I save money every day, you change it into the mentality of, I am someone who is working to be a millionaire. It's not I want, it's I am. Instead of saying, I'm someone who's trying to quit, instead of saying, I'm trying to quit smoking, when someone offers you a cigarette, you say, I'm not a smoker. It's a complete paradigm shift in how you see the world. When you're focusing on all these habits, they are helping you crack behaviours, which are essential to reinforcing your identity. But if you can start off with identity and saying, instead of, I'm trying to exercise more, you say, I am someone who exercises. I am a gym rat. You flip it into that identity, it becomes so much easier to admit it to people. For my own example, instead of going on stage, I'm someone who's trying to be a speaker, I'm trying to give more talks. No, I am a speaker and I am giving talks. And it's so important, use that colour for this. It's so important that we start at our identity where we can and we build out from there. We start with our identity that we want to study more. We are someone that studies a lot. We have our behaviour that we study lots, and then we get our outcome. Working that way with your habits will make it so much easier. And the best ways to have that, to have change in identity, are to admit it to others, repeat a behaviour lots. The more you do repeat this behaviour, the more it reinforces the identity. You give yourself evidence. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to be. As well, if you repeatedly tell yourself, I am this person, I do go to the gym all the time, I do eat healthy, I am a healthy person, the more you tell yourself that, it will be building up that identity all in yourself. And that's a master little trick that will help you speed up change and behavior control. I can't tell you every single possible example. Examples help so much, but afterwards, if you've got any examples you'd like me to apply this framework to, I will. But nonetheless, this is a masterful framework that does help you control an enormous amount of your life, and without a doubt, you will control this trajectory. You're going to control where you go in life. And whenever you come across a habit, whether you want to build a habit or change a habit, ask yourself, what is the cue? What is the craving? What is the response? What is the reward? How can I make it obvious, attractive, easy, satisfying? How can I make it invisible, unattractive, difficult, unsatisfying? Ask yourself those questions. Very literally, just ask yourself and write it down. You will without a doubt be able to break down any behavior and take control of it. It's an enormous power, and I'd like for you to start offering this power to you by making a habit of coming to my talks. And that is everything. Thank you. Thank you. Do you guys have any questions?